Hi, Góðan daginn, and welcome to Reykjavik Grapevine's newscast number 118. Today is Monday, the 19th of July 2021, and my name's John Pearson. I'm a journalist at the Reykjavik Grapevine. And regular viewers will notice that I'm not Valur Grettisson. I don't have the salt and pepper boyish good looks or the little black and white crazy dog. Valur and Polly have gone away for 4 weeks. They're taking their Icelandic vacation in the way that Icelanders do. They've taken all 4 weeks at once in July. So I'm here, kind of keeping the seat warm. Well, I would be if we used a seat, but we tend to sort of walk around and give you the news on the newscast, so I'm going to do that. They'll be back in early August. Until then, we have Art behind the camera, as usual, in the safest pair of hands possible, and we're going to give you some news headlines. So let's have at it. So today Art and I have brought you to Garnis, which is a little bit of land just to the east of Reykjavik. It's on the north side of the peninsula. It's a great little place for walking. We have the bay here, which is beautiful. We have a lot of cloud today, or you'd see some mountains over there. And we've got the island of Viði over there, which is where they have the John Lennon light memorial kind of sculpture thing, which is very beautiful when it's lit up. And we have the city of Reykjavik over there. I can see Hallgrímskirkja just over there, which is just close to where I live. There's the big church on the hill. And yeah, it's a beautiful place to go for a wander. So that's what we're going to do, and we're going to look at some news headlines. And in the best tradition of Valur, I'm just going to look at my phone because I can't remember everything. So here we go. So first up, we have some COVID news, which is a regular feature, or has been a regular feature on the Grapevine newscast if you've been watching for a while. We kind of stopped doing it, or we pulled back from it a little bit because COVID in Iceland sort of faded a little bit. Became less relevant here, but still very relevant in the rest of the world, obviously. But we have to start looking at it again, I'm afraid, really, because last week there was a big uptick in COVID cases. We went from, I think, 34 active cases to 60 or so, and so this is an increase that we can't really ignore. So what's happening at the moment is we really don't have any domestic restrictions here, as Valur has said in previous newscasts. We are able to gather in whatever numbers we like. All the pools and bars and restaurants are open as normal, and this has been the case since the 26th of June. So we've been used to this now for a couple of weeks. What also happened, though, on the 1st of July was that the border restrictions were lifted, or they were loosened, I should say. And as of the 1st of July until now, we've had no restrictions in Iceland, really. We've had no mandate to wear a mask, no restrictions on numbers of people that can gather together. All the bars and cafes and swimming pools and so on have been open. It's been kind of like normal life, and it's taken a little bit of getting used to, actually. It's been weird in its own way. But the other thing that happened at the end of June, or on the 1st of July actually, was that they removed the port restrictions, so that people coming into the country no longer had to test or quarantine if they had been infected with the COVID and they had recovered, or if they'd been vaccinated, and they could certify, or they could show a certificate to show either of those two states. So what we have now is a big uptick in the number of cases, and the chief epidemiologist, Þórólfur Guðnason, is having to look at the situation to see what needs to be done. Because 70% of Icelanders, more or less 70% of Icelanders, are fully vaccinated, there's really not much of an appetite for reinstating any domestic restrictions. So what he's looking at is reinstating border restrictions. Now, there's been no announcement on this yet. This is all based on an interview he gave last Friday to Icelandic media. But we are kind of expecting that at some point there'll be an announcement of increased border restrictions. We don't know what they are, but it may happen today. It hasn't happened yet as of the start of the recording of this newscast. But when it does happen, we'll bring it to you on our on our website. What could happen is that they just tighten the border restrictions, so maybe there'll be a reintroduction of the requirement for a negative PCR test for everybody arriving. That's one possibility. What's probably not going to happen is that there'll be wide-scale testing at the borders, because Iceland frankly doesn't have the number of nurses and technicians to handle that kind of operation. When they were doing it a year ago and visitor numbers were much lower, they struggled, frankly, to find the people to do it. So the idea of testing everybody as they come into the country now is probably a bit unlikely. What could happen is that they test some people. And here's an interesting thing. So when people come from abroad, if they're Icelanders, or like me, they're resident in Iceland, they have a greater number of people that they come into contact with. So they have work colleagues, they have friends and family, whereas tourists who come really don't interact with people that much. They may, you know, in restaurants and shops and whatever, but most of the time they just get in the car and drive around the island. So there is an argument that if anyone's going to be tested, it should be Icelanders, returning Icelanders, rather than tourists. Again, this is all just speculation. We don't know. So we have to find out from Þórólfur what he wants to do, and he'll make his recommendations to the government. Þórólfur Guðnason, who is our Chief of Civil Defence, put this very well when he said it's not over anywhere until it's over everywhere, which I think is very true. And who was it? I think it was Logie Berra, the American baseball star, and also Lenny Kravitz, the soft rock star, who said it ain't over till it's over, and they're both right. So watch this space. We will keep you informed if anything changes with the borders, and of course you can always go to covid.is for the latest from the government. So, what's up next? We have, excuse me, tourism, yeah. So tourist numbers are up, which is great. In June, we had 43,000 people come into the country, and you're all very welcome. Half of those were American. So tip of the hat to our American friends for coming and see us. We do appreciate it. It's still only about a sixth of what it was a year ago. So in June 2020, numbers were a sixth of what they were in June 2021. And they're still only like a fifth of what they would be for a pre-COVID June. So we've still got a long way to go. It's great though to see the city come alive again. You know, from my point of view, I see the fish and chip shop that I live near that's really just for tourists was closed nearly the whole of the pandemic. It's now reopened and providing jobs for people and food for tourists. And the bakery near me, which was, you know, getting really sparse business, now has a queue out the door. People go there for its kanelsnýð, which is a lovely kind of cinnamon roll, which we do here. So the city's coming back alive, and you can hear the kind of rolling of rolly suitcases on the pavement at all hours of the day and night. And it's great, you know, it's really good. It's really good to have people back. It's really important to Iceland. It's nearly 10% of GDP. In pre-COVID years, it was nearly 10% of GDP. So the financial importance of tourism to Iceland can't be underestimated. And it provides jobs, obviously. So good news. Anyway, so we hope that the figures will keep growing. Maybe they'll continue to grow to pre-pandemic levels. Perhaps not. Sometimes that may have been a bit of a strain on resources. For a country that has 366,000 people, we used to get like 2 million people a year visiting just before COVID. So that was the figure for 2019, which is obviously a lot and can sometimes put a strain on resources, but we're nowhere near there yet. So everybody's welcome back as far as we're concerned, and it's good to see you. So next, what do we have? Okay, so yeah, the fictional 4-day Icelandic work week. This is an interesting story. A couple of weeks ago in the Grapevine office, we had an interesting conversation where we noticed that foreign media, particularly in the UK, the Express, the Mail, Independent, and media in the US as well, I think CNBC carried this story. They were running a story which said that Iceland had successfully trialled a 4-day working week, and that had implemented it across the country, which was news to us in the Grapevine office as we sat there and said, well, should we even be at work at the moment? It was a Friday. Which was like, should we just go home? We didn't get that memo. So we looked into it, and what it turns out is this. There was a study made by Reykjavik City Council and the Icelandic government where they put some of their employees on reduced hours. It was not a 4-day week by any stretch. It was like reducing 40 hours down to 36 kind of thing. And there was a study done. The report was released last month by, in a joint publication by an Icelandic and a British institute. And it was picked up by the press and perhaps, shall we say, misinterpreted. So, yeah. The report itself, I'm going to put in the link in the description. It's 82 pages long. You don't have to read any of it. You don't have to read all of it. There is an executive summary that you can read. But it's interesting to read, and it does raise some interesting questions about the working week, whether we can do things more efficiently. In the study, people were paid the same, but they had their hours reduced by 10%, not by 1 day, which would be a lot more. So this is now gone with the unions, the Icelandic unions, and the Icelandic unions have, to some extent, negotiated this now with employers, and some of it has been implemented. The study says that 86% of people are now on reduced hours or have the right to reduced hours. I don't know where they got that figure from, but we're certainly not seeing it in the Grapevine office. So this is a really interesting society because it has a really strong work ethic. It was built on agriculture and fisheries, and anybody who knows about those industries knows that they're very, very hardworking, and I think it's imbued Iceland with quite a work ethic. It's not to say that people wouldn't welcome a 4-day week or reduced hours, but it does mean that these stories of Iceland as some sort of employment hours utopia are quite far off the mark and probably need setting straight. So anyway, so if you're going to come to Iceland, unless you're extraordinarily rich or very, very lucky, you're probably going to work a 5-day week, just like the rest of us. So yeah, just bear that in mind when you're planning your life. So next, we have a car hire shortage here, or a hire car shortage. So if you come to Iceland, unless you're on a tour package, you'll probably want to hire a car. The way to get around the country most of the time is by hire car, because we don't have a train system. We have intercity buses, which are great, but they don't get you out to the places that you probably want to go, out into the country and to see the natural beauty, which is why most of us come to Iceland. You can fly from city to city, but most people would hire a car. What happened during the pandemic was that the Icelandic, this way? Yeah. I'm getting art direction, I love it. Icelandic car hire companies, of which there are many, and they have an awful lot of cars, to cater for the tourists, those 2 million tourists that come in 2019, they all suddenly ran out of revenue in the pandemic. And then what happened was they started selling their cars because they needed to sell the cars to create money to run the business. That's resulted in a shortage of cars. So when the tourists started coming back very suddenly, just recently, they found that they didn't have enough cars to go around. They've tried to buy cars, but of course the pandemic has also hit car production internationally and distribution. So freight is not what it was. So all the car hire companies are kind of a bit stuck at the moment. They've been placing orders, but a third of the orders that were placed by Icelandic car hire companies internationally for cars were not delivered at the end of June. So there's a shortfall. So the short answer, or the short and long of it is, if you're coming to Iceland, you want to hire a car, get in early, book it online. Don't come here and kind of expect to rock up and get a hire car, because you may well find that you're disappointed. Anyway, so it's kind of a public service message for those of you who are going to visit us soon. So lastly, July is traditionally a quiet time for news in Iceland. Alþingi, the parliament, goes on recess until August. People go on their holidays as well, so a lot of people do what Valur does, or has done. They go to their summer houses, they take the whole month off, things slow down, business doesn't really happen. It's quite a Nordic thing, I think. It's probably alien to most Americans and even most British people. but that's why some of us moved here for a slower life. What it means is, though, that the news gets very sparse for stories. In the UK, we have something similar, not to the same extreme, but it's called the silly season, when Parliament goes into recess. Here they call it the cucumber season because the journalists start looking for stories and they start running stories about, you know, like the price of cucumbers or the cucumber yield or whatever, so it's become known as the cucumber season. So anyway, we do have a cucumber season story for you, in that there is a terrible shortage of hot dogs in Egilsstaðir, the city in the east. And this was run as a story last week by FourDay, which literally means the newspaper. It's one of Iceland's main dailies. And they ran this story with a dramatic picture of empty shelves in a supermarket. And the story is that people have been going to Egilsstaðir, or they've been going to the east, because the weather's been nice, it's been sunny, unlike here. So a lot of people, Icelanders and tourists, have been going to Egilsstaðir. And they've been wanting to have, you know, barbecues and stuff, and so they've bought up all the hot dogs, all the hot dog condiments, and all the buns. Obviously a calamity, and so this was a story in FourDay. So Grapevine advises, if you're going to go to Egilsstaðir, stock up on hot dogs, or consider the vegetarian option. Linda McCartney sausages are very, very good. I can vouch for them. Or just, you know, make a salad or something, I don't know. But anyway, that's the story there. Okay, so what else have we got? I think that we've probably been through most things. So we've had COVID news, we've had the encouraging visitor figures, the fictional 4-day Icelandic week, and a shortage of hire cars and hot dogs. Amazing. So that's probably all you need to go through this week. You know everything that you need to know about Iceland at the moment. So there's just a few things that I have to mention. The first is to thank our sponsors, Einstök Beer, which is a marvellous beer, and actually they export now pretty effectively. I don't know about the UK, but I know that they certainly export to the US. Try the Pale Ale, it's really good. Remember our High Five Club? If you don't know what our High Five Club is, Val has mentioned it before, but you pay a really small amount, like €2 or €3 or something like that, and it helps us in our work, but what you get back is you get extra access, so you get things early from us, you get the chance, if you join a certain part of the High Five Club, to join Vala and other members of the team on Zoom calls, where we have it, it's called Ask Me Anything, where we just have a conversation and you can ask us questions and stuff. But it really helps us. And the online shop as well. We don't have a physical shop in Reykjavik, so don't come to our office and expect to buy a sweater or something like that, but you can buy them online from the safety and comfort of your own home and have them delivered there. And we encourage you to do that. It really helps us, both the High Five Club and the shop really help us stay afloat. The whole of Icelandic society is getting back on its feet after the pandemic, and we're no exception. So everything that you can do, even in small ways, really helps us. I'll tell you a little bit more as well about what Vala and Polly are doing. So they're not just slacking off at home, they're actually working for us, but just not doing this kind of thing. And what they're doing is they're doing walking tours. So you can join them in person in Reykjavik if you're here during this week. They're going with Bjartmar, who is another presenter who also does our Icelandic perspective with Vala and Polly. And the three of them are going to be doing 2-hour tours around Reykjavik. So that's a fantastic opportunity to meet them, to have a chat, and to also see Reykjavik. We're not going to do it after this week, so get in while you can if you're here. It's possible that we may do it in the future, but we don't have any plans at the moment, so we'll see how it goes. So if you're here, do the walking tour. And lastly, our YouTube channel. Obviously, you're probably watching this on the YouTube channel right now, but we do so much more. We also do, as I mentioned before, the Icelandic Perspective, which is a show where Vala and Bjartmar go deep into a topic and talk about it to Icelandic guys from the Icelandic perspective. This last one they did is fascinating. It's nearly 50 minutes long, and it's a discussion of WikiLeaks and Julian Assange and Siggy the hacker. And Bjartmar's the person to talk to about this because it's his story. He broke it in Stundin, his newspaper. So go and check that out. You can also check out the other newscasts that we have. So at the moment we're doing one in the town like this, and then we're doing one at the volcano. The volcano ones at the moment are being handled very admirably by our interns. And the volcano's active again, so it's exciting. There's a lot going on there, so go and check that out. So subscribe. If you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you know when we're getting stuff, when we're releasing stuff. And yeah, and just keep in touch that way. So that's about it from me. I hope you've enjoyed. I have. And maybe next week you'll join me for more kind of walking around and waffling about the news, which is kind of what I do. So yeah, sjáumst, and hopefully see you next week.